welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed. We are finishing this book we've been reading for 180 episodes. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Hooray for us. We have to, let's review how the book ends. How does Jesus respond to a dialectical, step-by-step question and answer? No appeal to opinions, no appeal to authority, only using axioms and ideas that have an existence, not concepts, to step-by-step reason together through the arguments that show that an Abrahamic God is not possible, Satan or the devil is not possible, a clash or war between them as an explanation for human conflicts within our soul or within the world is not possible. An end to civilization so that Jesus comes back and rescues the believers, or Armageddon, is not possible. And none of that is necessary to make sense of human problems, because we can do so by addressing them where they arise. If the evidence for evil is conflict within the soul of man, giving rise to irrational and unintelligible actions, thoughts, words, then if we therefore address that, there is no home for evil. If there is no longer that conflict within man's soul, there's nothing to point to as evidence of evil, or there's no home for evil to live in. And if we can demonstrate the actual cause of those problems and what it takes to solve them, there's no need to create the fantasy of an Abrahamic God, the devil, evil, and the necessity for punishment or retribution, conflict, war, Armageddon as a way of solving human problems. How does Jesus respond to that? Now, first of all, how do we respond to that? What we've been learning is we are souls on a ladder of our progression that we can understand ourselves. And as we progress, we have to recognize we have negative responses. We interpret to save our beliefs. We can also learn to recognize and understand what those false beliefs that prevent our development are. We can also recognize how we tend to respond to truth or people speaking truth that challenge those beliefs we are attached to without even knowing. And from that, we have created a personality test. What stage of development are you, or what One Piece character are you? Leading to Luffy, the king of the pirates? What Friends character are you, or what category of false pathologos or sick belief are you carrying about yourself, tied to a negative image of yourself that is a false worldview, view of self and reality and how to solve problems that is harmful, unjust, and blocking your development? So what One Piece character are you in your development? What Friends character are you in your false belief? And as you look ahead to the next step on your journey, what Harry Potter house are you in? Are you Hufflepuff? Or are you Gryffindor? What kind of interpretation are you engaged in? Do you ignore Do you take a piece of something new? Do you try and keep the old and the new together? And finally, what Pokemon are you? To the truth, or the people speaking truth that do challenge your level of interpretation to save your kind of belief as you try and progress through the stages of development, how do you respond to that? How do you respond negatively to truth or people speaking truth? Do you ignore? Do you mock? Do you threaten? Do you exile? Are you one of the people engaged in murdering people who challenge your false beliefs? So giving us the personality test. So as we read this, not only learn the material, learn to understand what is the nature of our excellence, our problems, and how they're solved, and what demonstrates that a violent or retributive God or an Abrahamic God is not possible, evil and Satan is not possible, and an eternal conflict between good and bad is not possible. As you go through that, what's your response? What's your response? How do you react on that personality test? And then how does Jesus react? Because we are not just learning the material, we are trying to become dialecticians ourselves as our highest functioning as human beings and our purpose, as we've been learning from the book. That bangs. So in doing so, we need to understand that it's not just a matter of telling the truth. It's recognizing that we are humans with human problems. And the human problem is the pathologos. The pathologos functions to block our development of the logos. To follow the logos is the dialectic. Therefore, dialectic is how we pursue and reach truth. It's how we make sense of truth once we have higher visions. It's how we communicate truth in conversation, the opposite of debates or yelling at each other or punishment. It's how we communicate with ourselves and our partners and our fellow man. The dialectic is also what we are blocked from doing by our problems. Therefore, as you pursue excellence in whatever you want to achieve that's personally meaningful to you, you will find blocks surfacing that are clues, evidence of your puzzle you're here to solve about your pathologos. But ultimately, what we've recognized is what you have to be pursuing is something intelligible, something that has a rationality to it. If your goal is to eat as much popcorn as any man has ever eaten, that's not going to be a challenging goal. It has to involve some use of your mind to understand something. There has to be a hierarchical order of parts that can be understood. Mastering music, mastering math, mastering a skill of some kind that is intelligible because it reflects the pattern of the logos. But ultimately, if you want to surface the entirety of your blocks and complete your journey here, your work here as a human being, it would follow that your goal has to be mastery of the dialectic, or our highest function, purpose, intention as human beings. Mastery of the dialectic. In doing that, you are learning the logos, meaning the pathologos, the cause of our problems, the source of our problems, the puzzle we're here to solve, which functions to block the logos, will therefore surface in your attempt to master the logos. Isn't that neat? Just turn up my volume a little bit. How's my volume? Or maybe I'll stay where I am. So, reason 650,000 why the dialectic is our purpose here. It is necessary to surface the entirety of your pathologos problems that function to block the logos. But that gives us an interesting puzzle. or a catch-22 as people and as philosophers. The very activity that we need to use, engage in, employ, participate in to solve our problems is the very thing that our problems block. That's the issue. A problem is a problem or a pathologos because it blocks your participation in the logos or dialectic. The solution to your problem is to follow the logos, which is the dialectic. See the catch-22? Thus, the necessity for dialecticians. And we joke about on this channel, and we have a lot of laughs, and we have a lot of fun.
Funny, cool, and accents. Come on.
Yep, that's right. Come on. By saying that we give LeBron James $60 million to do basketball, if the most important role and functioning as a human being necessary for solving our problems and reaching our excellence is the dialectician, how many $1 million should we be giving to dialecticians in the world? Now, some people might make the argument that the capitalists, conservatives, and clergy that are torturing, abusing, raping, and murdering people en masse for fun and profit, they deserve the billions of dollars that they have, and owning all the houses, and having countless weapons and bombs, and owning all the food, and owning everything, as they currently do under the system of injustice that we live in currently, because we've yet to acknowledge and demand mastery of the logos as what is our standard for rulership, and necessarily having addressed your pathologos. Without that, those most, Dunning-Kruger effect, most identified and confident in their pathologos ignorance, rise to positions of power, positions where you don't need any understanding. So we talked about the necessity for understanding intelligible subjects as our challenge, as our work. There's no understanding in politics. It's just belief. You can believe any old shit. So the most ignorant, blocked from understanding people have a job. Tell everyone what to do. Religion, same thing. Very few people understand the Bible or religion as we've been doing in our series here. They just interpret whatever they want. And if you can manipulate the interpretations and beliefs of other people, you can rise to positions of power where you can play out your injustice or pseudo-excellence, false image of excellence with impunity on other people. Capitalism, same thing. If you're born into a rich family, there you go. That's it. You don't have to learn anything. You just can be a Donald Trump-like fascist, criminal, rapist, murderer, and get away with it in our current unjust times. So that's the world we are currently in when we allow ourselves to be ruled by belief, specifically our unsuspected false beliefs about self and reality called the pathologos, which then become venerated or pedestalized or universalized with religion. It's not my stupid sick opinions, it's God's. Conservatism, it's not my racist opinions, it's the law. Capitalism, it's not my exploitation and murder, it's the invisible hand of the market. And our job, therefore, is to recognize this, participate in the dialectic, use it to remove those very problems that we all suffer from. But because of that catch-22, we are blocked from participating in what we're blocked from participating in. We are blind to our blind spots. We respond to our projections of what isn't there as though it's real. So there's our projection, of what isn't there, our blind spots of what is there. That's the functioning of interpretation. Interpretation is the functioning of our belief. And the functioning of belief is to specifically use that interpretation to block your participation in what's actually unfolding. That's providential, caring, rational. That's the self-logos. So that's the catch-22. And if we give $60 million to LeBron James, we should give $60,000 million, $60 billion to dialecticians. Why not? Or at least $600 million. How about that? That sounds fair. Compromise. Because while you may be blocked from your problems, a dialectician who has done this very work can not project his own opinions. He doesn't judge you. He follows the logos that unfolds through our own reflection, ousia, guided reflection. That's what the dialectician does, guides your reflection. And your words that you use in your reflection are the clues. Not to clip chimp. If you think that solving problems is through finding someone making a mistake and then inflicting harm on them, you are a sick individual. You are suffering from a sickness of our culture called punishment or retribution. Retributive justice. If we just beat up enough children and bomb enough children and abuse enough children, then finally there will not be any terrorists. Bullshit. That's how you make more terrorists, in fact. So we're not looking for our problems as a way of inflicting misery or shame or blame or punishment. We're looking for the words that surface in our reflection to guide our discovery of our false beliefs, or the giving birth to those sick beliefs, the babies that need to be aborted, but also giving birth to the higher ideas that we are here to surface that are true and real and lead us through our development. So you need a dialectician. Or, as we say, it's not a one-person game. You need someone to talk to. And for me, it's you guys. And this text. Our dreams is also someone that is a guiding force of the logos that can guide us. But again, in the activity of dream analysis, you need a dialectician. You also need courage and character. There are many ways in which our pathologos blocks our participation from the logos. One of the ways is, this is a silly goal, or I'm not good enough, or I can't do it. Do it anyway. Because those things are not true. You can participate in what you're specifically here to participate in. It would be irrational if you weren't. That's the catch-22. Developing the courage to let go of your old beliefs and follow the logos. The wisdom learnt from these texts to learn the knowledge that can maintain that activity. The temperance, keeping your cool through the ups and downs you'll face as you go through that development process. And justice, doing it at all times. 4 virtues. Giving rise to, ultimately, our goal, the state of self. As Socrates says in the Phaedo, the virtue that is the gold, that all the other virtues are like gold coins that you use to trade in for the true virtue, the virtue of self. The state of self. Fancy word for that is phronesis. By the way, you won't discover any of this unless you're reading the Balboa translations of Socrates or Plato, because these keywords are mistranslated because of the, again, pathologos interpretations of translators. Except for one Balboa, who is translating the Greek. The Greek is along with the text and has done work in midwifery and philosophy. So, if you're looking for phronesis, it's in purple in those Balboa translations, and he translates it into the English as mindfulness. But just a little bit of a tip there. Learn the underneath when you see the word mindfulness, look for the Greek phron, phronesis. Anyway, so that's our job. See if we can master the dialectic, use it in the highest way, and become aware or be aware of how we respond to it so we can judge our own state of development as best we can. Now, ideally, with the help of a friend who's a dialectician, someone who's in this game as well. So, let's do that. As we finish the book, isn't this exciting? We're at the end of the book. Hooray! Exciting stuff. So let's jump in. Got it. Hooray.
Now we're getting into extreme Jordan Peterson levels of whimsy.
That's right. That's what the channel's all about. Extreme Jordan Peterson levels of whimsy. Right?
Funny and cool? Hey, leave some for the rest of us, man.
I will not. All right, let's go through this last section one more time as a quick overview. We have gone through this whole text to explain a lot of things. And by the way, we should go through the text as a whole, having completed the text, and see if we can find dialectical categories within the structure of the book itself. That would be fun. And let's see if what was promised at the beginning has been answered at the end. And let's see if we can see new things in the beginning, having read it through completely. So that's something we could do. But for right now, they have been talking about the nature of what makes Socrates and Jesus the same. They've both had peak experiences. They both have followers. They both failed to write down their insights, so they left it for people who haven't reached their vision, haven't reached their understanding, to interpret based on their own level of vision and understanding, their own teachings to devastating effect. The philosophy that we study at university is the exact opposite of real philosophy. The people who follow Jesus' teachings do the exact opposite of what Jesus says because of this reason. They follow Paul, who venerated belief in ignorance and punishment, seventh hypothesis, ignorance. Armageddon, that the religious people are trying to create on our planet, was supposed to have happened in Paul's lifetime. So pretty mad that they're seeking it currently, or using it as a justifications of their way of inflicting violence and tyranny, because that's their idea of justice and goodness that they haven't addressed through midwifery. So modern Christians are opposite to Jesus. Modern philosophers are opposite to Socrates. Socrates calls them philodoxia, love of opinions. We call them debate perverts.
Debate weirdo.
Debate weirdos.
Debate dweeb.
And a debate dweeb. And we say,
Oh, fuck.
so that's what made them the same. But we have explored what makes them different. Now, what makes them different is essential, because you can represent the essence of human struggle, or the essence of the human purpose, drama, conflict, the nature of human problems with these two characters. Jesus is to Socrates as belief is to understanding. So they've both had that peak experience. Jesus makes sense of it with belief, Socrates with understanding. That makes all the difference. And as we read last time, in the Iliad, a story that's been around for 8,000 years, thereabouts, Achilles made sense of his peak experience with understanding as well, allowing him to to transition from the worst kind of person to the best, and a model or archetype for the ideal man, the hero's journey. Jesus, of course, made sense of his peak experience with belief and ended tragically. Now, in a tragic hero story, the tragic hero has a realization that his tragic demise was the cause of an unsuspected false belief he should have addressed. So he was the cause of his own tragic demise, his tragic flaw, his tragic blind spot. Maybe you've learned about this in English class. But Jesus, of course, doesn't have that realization, so technically it's a pathetic hero story. He blames God. So God, why have you abandoned me, is the ending of the story in Mark, copied by Matthew and Luke, opposed by John, who wanted to be a bootlicker of Paul. Paul, of course, who murdered Christians for fun, didn't like this understanding and knowing stuff, states of mind stuff. He wanted to oppress people through ignorance and belief, so he venerated belief or faith. And of course, the oppressive, the sick individuals within our species who saw that this was a means of having power over others, picked Paul and burned all of the other gospels. By the way, there were more. They're called the Gnostic Gospels that we found in the 60s in Egypt. And again, gospels that talk about understanding. Jesus' twin brother Thomas, Gospel of James, and there were other ones. The Gnostic Gospel of John is a different one. Called Gnostic because they talk about Jesus talking about knowing. Gnostic, knowing, noesis. That's that word. And not belief. So, as Jesus is to Socrates, so too is our problems to our excellence or to our healing. So too is belief to understanding. And you could even have other metaphors. The places. Athens, Judea is to Athens. The children of Abraham, the Abrahamic religions, are to the Hellenic people. The people of Judea are to the Hellenic. But for us, it's to recognize that there are two fundamental cognitive functions that we are to move from and to: belief to understanding. Sounds simple, because it is. That's called seeing. When you see it, it seems simple. So we've explored together in the text many different things. One key difference was the difference in sacrifice. To be religious or to be a believer, you have to sacrifice your high states. You have to sacrifice the freedom of yourself. First hypothesis, self, our ultimate goal, to sacrifice that to believe and follow someone else. You have to sacrifice your own mind because the intelligence is not an object of belief. Belief is about appearance, images, shapes and colors, baby brain stuff. Mind or intelligence is an object of understanding and knowing. So people often fear their own mind. My mind is broken. And they will get very mad if you tell them that they're capable. No, I'm not capable. Don't you know that I am terrible and bad? That's why I need Jesus. And sometimes they comment on my YouTube. Not often. So that's what you sacrifice. You sacrifice the good for clan loyalty and clan membership, a role and an identity with a belief-based clan. So very easy to see with religion and MAGA. They don't care about reason, evidence, rationality, principles, morality. It's just, I wear a red hat. Yesterday, Trump was no war. Now he is war. and I don't see the difference. Whereas the sacrifice that we are supposed to be making is sacrificing that very loyalty or false belief that we need that way of being, that clan membership, because life is too scary without it. We are too inadequate without it. To sacrifice our ignorance for freedom to participate in wisdom. Whereas belief, you sacrifice your freedom of self, your participation and use of mind, and of course, understanding. Don't ask questions. That's for people who go to hell. We have talked about the different understanding of gods. Gods are, well, as the Hellenic people recognize, metaphors, personifications of the principles of reality that inform our soul's development, the nature of reality, how providence unfolds, how we participate in providence to our return through the Logos. So all of those forces we can understand. We've looked at the difference between the interpreters. Paul's interpretation. Everyone, therefore, some level of vision and understanding of the self-logos or truth, and at some level of loyalty and stuck in their false beliefs. So we're at some level of logos and pathologos. We've drawn maps.
Now we're getting into extreme Jordan Peterson levels of whimsy.
For sure.
I'm cute. Like, it's cutie pie.
Emma, you're such a goon.
Goon.
Where's our graph? You could therefore, whoops. What's this one? Right, so this graph is our journey. We're born seeking the Logos in our development. But then we have our pathologos origin scene, where our parents or parental surrogates recognize that if we allow this way of being to continue, they'll have to reflect on their own family way of being, which they hate because of their own pathologos they haven't done the work on. So we get a false belief, and then we end up stuck in fate, injustice, the cause of our injustice, and we become lovers of those opinions that we get from that young age. Our goal, therefore, is to turn it around. Hopefully you come across this channel or this book, or maybe some lectures by Dr. Pierre Grimes, or some Balboa translations of Plato. Something like that offers you the choice to join the hero's journey or to be stuck in failure and fate. Do you pick up the game that we're in or not? You can turn it around and reach your ultimate goal, moving from a love of opinions to a love of understanding, allowing you to get into that state of justice, doing your intended function at all times, and develop mastery. A mastery that transcends even this physical existence. And also we have this graph that apparently, to the extent you have a control of the market share, the more power or money or authority you have within the system, the greater the negative, unjust expression of your particular problems. So those are our two options. Our life can be therefore a meditation or contemplation or dialectic, becoming more and more entrenched in our false image or mask of ourselves that causes our negative states of mind, that allows us to play that negative, unjust role. That's the triad of the pathologos. Or our goal is to know the self through the mastery of the logos, experience the peak states of mind while recognizing it's a reflection of the self, and mastering our functioning as a dialectic. So our existence, power, and functioning, self, mind, understanding. This triad also is reflected in our relationships. There's you, there's your baby, there's your beloved, and there has to be a shared ideal that both of you can be seeking. Otherwise, relationships become that same negative drama. They want you to be like their pathologos, images of what it means to be good and beautiful and just, that they got from their family when they were young, making them a member within that tribe of failure and fate. You want them to be most beautiful and good, and that's the nature of conflict. Even worse is when they come from a family that's so similar there isn't conflict. Then you just feed each other's ignorance. That's the model of most relationships, but we've recognized there has to be a threesome in a relationship. There's you, your beloved, and a shared ideal, which is this one: the ideal self, mind, and functioning. Our excellence that you can work towards. And of course, as the saying goes, if you have someone like that in your life, you can move quickly like a thief. Or you can change your class from a slow lumbering paladin to a fast moving rogue class. We've also recognized that should be another graph about this. Here we go. Everyone can be put on the graph of what level of vision and understanding, what extent, what level of ousia, self-reflection, and logos, understanding, have you reached in your perfection of the logos? And to what extent have you purified your pathologos? So that's one of the things we looked at in this book. Every interpreter of Jesus or Socrates has some level of ousia and logos upwards, and some influence of their own personal pathologos, beliefs, and interpretation this way. So are they here? This would be the worst. This would be the worst down here. Shallow amount of logos, no work on their pathologos, and we want to get up here, having purified completely the false image of self and use that freedom to perfect the logos. So what we've also recognized is while there are it makes absolutely no sense at all to say, it says in the Bible. Who says it in the Bible? Did Paul say it, or did Jesus say it? Or did Mark say it, or did Luke say it? These are very, very different people with very, very different levels of perception of truth and purification of what's false. Paul is way down here. Modern Christians are the worst, by definition. Jesus seemed to have had a high vision, but has done little work on removing his pathologos. So, given that, we can therefore recognize that we have stages of development that we can hierarchically understand and move through in this upward movement, but also we can also recognize equally levels of interpretation where our pathologos, to the extent it remains, projects its own bullshit beliefs into our learning, reading, seeing, relationships, or blocks us from seeing what is there. Projection and blind spots. That's interpretation. And through this book, that's what we've been learning. It's one of the key subjects of this book. Can we find a hierarchical list? And he says there are 10, which seems to reflect the 10 hypotheses of Parmenides. 10 kinds of interpretation, 5 kinds of interpretation, and 5 kinds of responses or rejections. For example, Paul has the first level of interpretation, reject everything completely. Mark is a rejecter of Paul, which is interesting because that maps to the... So while that's the 10 kinds of pathologos interpretation, that reflects the 10 levels of logos in our upward moving. There are the 5 positive stages we move through, moving from ignorance into wisdom and then to knowing the self. But for every one of those, there is a rejecter of any one of them, just like the rejectors of the interpreters. 5th hypothesis is our image thinking, the shapes and colors that cause our problems. But there is a class of person we call nihilist or black-pilled or doomers that reject even that. There's nothing, not even images, not even physical parts. Our job is to become curious about it, curious open state of mind, ousia, seeking an understanding of the cause of our problems, because we don't like our problems. That's addressing our beliefs, 4th hypothesis. And there's a class of person who doesn't accept that beliefs exist. There are no problems that can be recognized as a whole. There is no excellence that can be recognized as a whole. There's no fundamental mind above the physical world, different to the physical world, that we can look for as causal beliefs to our problems. Those are 8th hypothesis materialists or reductionists. So addressing our beliefs, 4th, and our image thinking, 5th, we need that $600 million dialectician. Now, the going rate currently is a cup of coffee, so save yourself $999,999,999 and get yourself a dialectician while they're going cheap. That's our purpose as well. So that dialectician looks down to help people remove their problems caused by their beliefs. In doing so, you become free of your ignorance to participate in that functioning as well, become like the dialectician. Free from your false ideas of justice and truth, you can be open to the 2nd hypothesis, the actual nature of truth and reality. So the opposition to that logos or understanding and providence, care, is the 7th hypothesis, those that oppose that such a thing exists. That's the most common and most dangerous belief that we're currently looking at. That says that life isn't about ignorance and wisdom and participation with a dialectician. It's about God and the devil and the participation in conflict and war and Armageddon. That's the one we are currently demolishing with reason, the dialectic. While the source of our image thinking are our unsuspected beliefs, the source, model, origin of understanding is pure intelligence. That's the 2nd hypothesis. And therefore, there has to be a problem, a pathologos problem, that is defined by an opposition to such a thing existing, an eternal knowable realm of pure intelligence, ousia itself, the paradigm and model for justice and beauty, That's a sixth hypothesis person. Now, of the classes of problems you can have, that seems to be the best. Because you're open to there being, you're not blocked from reason and understanding like a seventh, but maybe you haven't experienced a non-physical experience, or you haven't addressed your upbringing. The people around you in your upbringing who claimed that there was a spiritual dimension were all loonies or religious fascists. And so if those are the people who talk about the divine or spirituality, then clearly it's not real. No, they were just idiots. They were just ignorant. If Trump says justice is murdering children, double tapping a children's school in Iran, murdering 200 innocent children and their parents and medical workers who try to help them afterwards, if that's justice for Trump and the Americans and the Israeli Jewish state, then there surely is no justice. No. Those are not the model. We have to address our false beliefs. So the sixth hypothesis, and Mickey Mouse is an image we use. They're open to there being reasoning. There's a rational way of understanding Mickey Mouse. There are things that he can say and he won't say. There are good things Mickey Mouse can do. Give a kiss to Minnie Mouse. There are bad things he can do. Kick Pluto for peeing on the rug. But it's imaginary. It's not true and objective. It's something we invent. So the isms, Marxism, capitalism, socialism, people who identify with that as the highest idea of good or oneness. So here we are, addressing our fifth hypothesis, image thinking and problems, to examine the root cause, our unsuspected false beliefs about ourselves, fourth hypothesis, with a dialectician who's engaged in the third hypothesis, our highest functioning as a dialectician, who is himself reflecting on its model, true reality or being or beauty, to judge our false images of those things. And the whole reason we go through these 4 steps is to reach the ultimate, the 5th step, which stands above that whole process, transcendent, prior, higher, superior, and transcendent, the self. First hypothesis. Therefore, the opposition to the first hypothesis that we have to solve in principle, that stands above all of those 4 expressions of the pathologos, is the pathologos itself. And until you free yourself from your pathologos false image of the self, you will be carrying something that isn't the true self, that will get in the way from your true experiencing of the true self. Therefore, our purpose is to move through these positive hypotheses and purify these negatives to reach the first hypothesis self and sacrifice the pathologos 10th. So those are that's the quick run through and review of the development we're going through, allowing us to judge what level is Socrates, what level is Jesus, what level are the interpreters of Jesus, Mark, Paul, Ficini, Augustine, I think we mentioned, John. Equally so, Socrates. How were his interpreters? Where did Plato reach in his development of the logos and purification of this pathologos? Where did Aristotle reach? Not very far, of course. He was opposed to philosophy itself. Materialist. Giving rise to the most common thing that people call philosophy that you look and you find on YouTube, Stoic philosophy, which is the language of Socrates with everything that it's supposed to point to removed. So there's no realm of being, there's no realm of self, there's no development and removal of your pathologos through dream work and midwifery, None of that. It's just wisdom equals lifting weights. What? Wisdom equals
I don't want to eat a monkey.
eating a monkey. Wisdom equals where's the bull testicles?
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
How do I not have a place on my soundboard for the bull testicles? That's one of my favorite sound drops. Hold, please. Is it in this one? Hold, please. Huh?
Bull testicles. Bull testicles.
Got it. Bull testicles. So being wise or being just is eating a bull testicles.
They're a weirdo. Bull testicles. Bull
What?
Bull testicles. Bull testicles.
And those are the sorts of people who say things like, where's my longer bull testicles one?
She's like a cold-hearted cunt.
Oh my god. Hold. So, Stoic, as we read in the text, right at the beginning, Socrates says they steal the language of philosophy and they remove all metaphysics and being and mind and stuff and self. And they say instead,
I'm eating the testicles of this bull, and I'm eating it raw.
they eat testicles of bulls and they eat it raw. And then they go on Joe Rogan's podcast for some clout. So, the Stoics. So, our purpose, therefore, is not to sacrifice our development of the logos for veneration of our pathologos. That's religion. That's family clan identity. Your family clan is the chosen one. That's conservative politics or right-wingers. That's capitalist loyalty. So we are to do the opposite. So we can therefore recognize that we live in an upside-down world, or Hades. Hades isn't a real place for punishment because we said punishment is unjust and couldn't be a cosmic principle. But we do play out the implications of the injustice we don't address because of our failure to do our work, which we are learning here, by reincarnating into a world where there is constant injustice constantly. The systems of power are, in our current world, the people who have claimed rulership are those that sacrifice the logos for loyalty to pathologos, which is the literal exact opposite of who should be in power in a just world. We need to surface and sacrifice our pathologos for freedom to develop the logos. So, the difference between the Hellenic and the Judaic, or the Hellenic and the Abrahamic, between the good and the bad. Do you sacrifice understanding and development for your magic Mormon underpants so you can do a soaking?
Gooners.
Because you're a gooner?
They're like a goon. They're a gooner.
Because they're gooners?
Gooners.
Those Mormons with their magic underpants? Or do you sacrifice your ignorance? So that's a big difference between them. They are the same in that they didn't. They left it to interpreters to translate what they said. Didn't write their own stuff down. They're different in all of the ways we mentioned, including sacrifice and whether they venerate the Pathologos or the Logos. So it's important for us to recognize all of those different classes of interpreters. We also recognize that Easter stuff, Jesus magicking from the dead, was added to the Bible's 200 years later to turn it from a cautionary tale about a lack of midwifery and keeping your belief to actually belief is good, actually, because I want to tell you what to do. We looked at the Kermygia, Kermyga, the fundamental precepts that make you a Christian. Jesus was the only Son of God. You have original sin. He's seated at the right hand of the Father. You have to have faith and you get into heaven. Eventually, Jesus will come back and blah, all that stuff. All of the stuff we recognize as what it means to be a modern Christian is not said or done by Jesus. It's all stuff added through interpretation of Paul, sometimes backed up by John. And Mark highlighted and reversed all of that stuff. So all of the things that it takes that we recognize as a modern Christian is Pauline. Pauline said something weird. He wanted to bring together the circumcised and the uncircumcised, which is a weird thing to say, but Paul was a weird freak. So modern Christians are Pauline Jews. There you go. Paul's theology began as a new form of the core beliefs of Judaism. Whether or not we agree with it, we can say it's a way of understanding ultimate concerns as Jesus. And, well, we do disagree with it. You idiot. Abrahamic religions are a class of belief. Okay, let's skip it. Let's keep going. Let's go quick. We explored where problems actually come from by recognizing there's a parallel structure between our soul's desire for wisdom, that's philosophy, a love of wisdom, philosophia, philos love, sophia wisdom. So we pursue the good, the beautiful, the true, the just in everything we do. But ultimately, if you are awake, reflective, well, where is it really? I like beautiful things. I like just things. I like to pursue excellence. I want good things. Where is the good? Where is the beautiful? Where is the just? That's mind knowing itself as the penultimate experience. But of course, even that, goodness, oneness, beauty as a peak experience has to have a cause, one good self. We realize that it's the imitation of that causes our pathologos beliefs as children. Our parents appeared most knowing, most loving, most caring when we were young, but they acted in an unjust way towards our own development and high states of mind and freedom, because that would challenge the family clan way of being. So everything we learn about our problems, we can gain a further insight into the nature of truth, because it's an analogical reflection. Equally, the more we learn about self and logos, we can gain insight into the nature of the pathologos, which goes back to what we just said about there being a symmetrical structure between the development of the logos and the five hypotheses and its opposition and the five negative hypotheses of the pathologos. As above, so below. Okay, so let's keep going really fast to the end, because we need to get to the end of this book. There's some bangers to be seen. The spiritual practice of death and dying is true philosophy, because to experience the mind, you have to separate your soul from your physical senses. Understanding the gods, everything has an existence, power, and activity. The anagogic triad, we read Apollo, reflect Aphrodite and master the Logos in the dialectic Hermes, but of course there are 12 fundamental forces that we can represent as the 12 Olympian gods that govern our physical world. We didn't really get into that at a lot of depth. Dreams is our highest activity, dream analysis. All right. Reincarnation is necessary for justice and understanding our work. We reflected on that yesterday. Let's go all the way. Let's go. So much. There's so much that we covered. So, we have addressed the ignorance of belief as the cause of human problems. We have recognized it's venerated with conservatism and religion. I'm throwing in capitalism. The book just says conservatism and religion. We have understood what the gods really are. Those that take their beliefs literally are savage, barbaric, because they follow in the analogy of Abraham. As Abraham was told to kill his son, so too religious people are told to kill whoever the fuck Netanyahu wants you to kill. They wanted you to die for Israel. That's that song that's going viral at the moment. Released by Iran as Israel and America are murdering innocent children and people over the world for their Epstein plans. Apparently a lot of our culture and political planning has all been planned by this Epstein class of disgusting billionaires. And Iran released a song to help people wake up to the fact, Americans specifically, that wake up to the fact that they are being told to die for Israel. Your government is run by pedophiles. They wanted you to die for Israel. It's a banger. So that's people who take their religion literally. Oh, hello, welcome, Sus. Hello.
All checks out.
It all checks out that you're here. How are you going? Lovely pictures, by the way, that you're sharing on Discord. How are you? Wondering. In a state of wonder. How are you? Lovely pictures that you shared in Discord, by the way. So, the nature of human problems, belief. Where it comes from in childhood. How it's venerated in society, conservatism and religion. How death and destruction sweep across the world when they get positions of power. How the Hellenic people called them barbarians, those who take their mythology literally and do not recognize they are analogical personifications, analogies for metaphysical principles. We have covered all of this in the book. But at the end of the book, Jesus rejects all of it, forgets it all, suddenly starts taking his beliefs literally, forgets all that stuff about theology being a metaphor, forgets all that stuff about the cause of human injustice and evils isn't actually a force called evil and Satan. It's actually when we take our beliefs literally and we don't do our fucking job and do midwifery and dream analysis. That's the cause of problems within our world. That's the problems of cause of problems within your soul, within your relationship. All problems is simply the fact that you haven't done dream analysis and midwifery, which you should be doing. Our opposition to doing it, or as the book says, the problem is we set other goals more important than our proper goal. Jesus rejects all of that to say, actually, it's the devil. And you think you can solve problems with midwifery and dream analysis, the dialectic? No, you can only solve problems with punishment and violence and eventually Armageddon. So, all of the things we've covered in the dialogue is rejected by Jesus at the end. As an American, I can tell you I'm very silly. I'm okay, and thank you. To you, we say,
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
you're perfect, and you're exactly the case.
I have a sickness for the thickness.
And also, you have a sickness for the thickness, apparently, which makes you...
Goon. Be a reasonable gooner.
But we can do philosophy and be reasonable gooners. So, we've also recognized that belief is the cause of our interpretation. There's a list. How much do you interpret? How much can you see? And of course, the best human activity, as we said, as Socrates goes on to say, the Hellenic society puts everyone else to shame. If 8,000 years ago they knew that Achilles, the absolute worst person, could go through midwifery and dream analysis and become the best person, why haven't you? Why haven't you? Why is this not the standard of your relationship? Why is this not the standard of your society? Puts all other cultures to shame. Therefore, the true human tradition or human culture or human golden age, that's a necessary way of being for us to move into, is called being Hellenic. Personified, not literally by a dude named Achilles who Brad Pitt plays in a movie, but the myth. The myth that shows that in principle, all souls can go through this learning process. We have a power within our soul to address through the dialectic, midwifery and dream analysis. Dialectic as the one thing. Its specific application to reading is one application, but you use the dialectic in dream analysis and you use the dialectic in midwifery. So you have the power to overcome your problems. But because of the nature of problems have a self-protecting mechanism. Given that, the most important thing you can do, the most just thing you can do, the most helpful and beneficial thing you can do for yourself, your relationships, and humanity is dream analysis and midwifery. It's the thing you will probably fight the most not to do. You will come up with a million reasons why not to do. But here's the thing. All of those reasons are actually gifts. So long as you don't take them literally. It's the same difference. Literal versus analogical. Are you a believer taking bullshit literally? Well, daddy said that women are bad, so literally women are bad. Or analogical. My dad said women are bad, which isn't literal, but is some sort of analogy to his beliefs about reality and how he was treated growing up. I'm not going to listen to his bullshit, that's his problem. But if he wants to talk about it, I will help him reflect on his words and thoughts analogously to what they are messages to. Just as we need to recognize that the three big religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, are not real. They can't all be real, obviously, but none of them are real. But they are analogical messages about the root analogy behind all of them. They are Abrahamic. They have at their root Abraham. They are death cults. Now, a lot of the internet is waking up. People are calling them death cults. They're calling conservatism, capitalism, and religion death cults. Oh, and they're also including Joe Rogan's sphere in there. So, which is again, the right-wing comedy or propaganda propaganda arm. They call them death cults, and they are, because the root underlying analogy is as Abraham was instructed to kill blindly because of belief, because Daddy in Sky said so, so too, when Netanyahu tells you to go and die for Israel, you have to do it too. When Trump says go and die for the Epstein billionaire class, do it too. When the billionaires who are bullied at school want to blow up the world because no one loved them, then you have to do Armageddon, because that's the analogical message religion, Abrahamic religions, are telling us as human beings about the root analogy that we have to address. That's the current sickness of our age. The current sickness of our age is this fake death cult analogy behind all of them. That's our purpose. Say it with your full chest. Common thing that men do are to marry their mums. Yeah, that's it. Because your parental image of beauty becomes you hold on to your whole life. Unless you go through philosophical midwifery, you'll be attracted to the model of beauty and justice and way of relating in a relationship that was modeled by your mum or your dad. So yeah, therefore, look for someone who's clever. Don't look for someone that feels comfortable or usual. But also do midwifery to remove those false ideas. Death cults, yes. It's really disgusting and disturbing how beliefs are terrible and always justified to cause harm and exploit people. Yes, that's our purpose, to move from belief to understanding, from Jesus to Socrates, from children of Abraham to Hellenics, from primitives to philosophers, from savages to sages. It's just two things. That's the pyramid. While there's one meaning of life that we can recognize underlying all of this, the dialectic, our lives are a dialectical meditation on our pathologos idea of ourself, our pathologos states of mind we repeat over and over again, and our pathologos functioning of interpretation, solidifying that false mask. That's belief. The dialectic is used to purify that and perfect understanding so you can come to know your true self, your peak states of mind, and your ideal functioning, which happens to be the dialectic. Yeah, it's just belief and understanding. Those are the two. Takes courage to tell the truth about it, though, because we are taught that don't judge my beliefs. Or, little Aunt Betty down the street is Christian. She has 84 crosses in her kitchen, and her beliefs don't hurt anyone. They hurt her. So it's rude to be mean about all religions. They do hurt her. Oh, and her kids. She might not have power now, but maybe she'll have power later. And she will use her religious beliefs to inflict harm and exploit people. Takes courage to tell the truth. Because people are loyal to their pathologos beliefs. Venerate it in religion, conservatism, capitalism. They think they need it. They think they benefit from it. That's what we have to overcome with understanding, truth, courage. Wake me up after we get nuked in North America. Well, what we are doing is using the dialectic to take a look at the three fundamental pillars that leads to this nuking in Armageddon. The idea that the cause of good is God, the Abrahamic God that's necessary to fight Satan. The cause of badness is evil and its cause Satan. And therefore, there is no connection between the two. They're equal and opposites. The solution to problems is therefore war, punishment, and therefore Armageddon. That's the current trajectory we're on. But we have done a dialectic that shows that this Abrahamic God is impossible, not because of belief or opinion or appeals to authority. In principle is impossible and irrational and unintelligible. This idea of Satan and evil is impossible, false, impossible. This idea of there being at war is impossible. We've also done a mega dialectic to show what is the actual nature of goodness. The self, or goodness is intelligible and rational. How we participate in goodness is the dialectic, which is this skillful use of reason, contemplating the intelligible. Its cause is the good itself, or the good self, which is also the highest idea of God in principle. So the highest idea of God is the self, the true self, or the good self. We therefore benefit ourselves by doing the dialectic all the time as much as possible, because that makes us like God or like the good self. It's also the art that allows us to purify these false beliefs that lead to injustice, harm, and Armageddon, which we just demonstrated. Now, what we're also recognizing is once you do that, you use the dialectic to break down step by step, rationally, using ideas and principles themselves, no appeal to authority, no appeal to physical images, no appeal to the physical world at all. Once you do that, demonstrate the truth, and also demonstrate the impossibility of those false beliefs in the Abrahamic God, Satan, and Armageddon, it won't change people. Because remember the oracle? She always says,
No, you're not the one that's mentally unwell. You're brave. You are crossing into new boundaries.
She does say that. But she also says,
People don't logic their way into stupid positions. They stupid their way into stupid positions.
they stupid their way into those stupid positions. So this reasoned dialectic, even though it's true, our job isn't just to pursue truth, it's also humanness. Even though it's true, our loyalty to what's false will mean it will result in it not changing us. Truth and humanness. And that's where we're at the end of the text. Socrates breaks down these, and we remember it, we practice it, we've reviewed it a few times, so we can benefit ourselves and our soul to become like God, or the good self, the true self, both in this lifetime and beyond, as our meaning of life. We can potentially benefit those who are open to understanding, removing their problems and demonstrating that not only is this Abrahamic God, Satan, and Armageddon impossible, it's not necessary, because we can understand problems in a different way. But again, my board is crashed. I have to quit that and restart it. But again, oh, maybe it's because this is open. It doesn't fit because we also, so that's the logos applied to the dialectic applied to the logos. Mastery of the dialectic also involves understanding our pathologos. We have to trace, as you said, you're attracted to people like your parents. We have to trace our problems and our loyalty to beliefs to their origin or roots or first cause, just as our development is to follow the logos to the cause of the logos, the self. So too do we have to follow our problems and loyalty to belief to its cause and origin scene in childhood, so we can readdress that scene. That's midwifery. That's what dreams guide you to do. That's the most important thing we can do. That's what frees us from our injustice. That's the necessary step that Jesus has to take, because at the end of the book, we are seeing someone in that counterattack. Jesus has already gone through the logos demonstrating those things, the difference between the Hellenic and the Jews, the difference between the belief and understanding, the difference between literalism and analogy as theology, the actual nature of human problems and the actual solution of human problems, as well as the actual excellence of human souls and opening ourselves up to a higher state of being as a species. He's seen it. He's gone through it. It wasn't a speech. He agreed step by step. He asked questions along the way. But at the end of the text, we see him throwing it all away. That's part of the art of dialectic, the humanness. The human problem is to reject the logos. Things you have already seen, things you have already understood, you forget. Have you ever noticed sometimes, like maybe one day you're in a really, really good state of mind for some reason, and all of a sudden you're seeing things in a different way, and then you go, I've felt this way before. These were insights I've had already. I might have even written them down at the time. But when you're not in that state of mind, you forget the things that are not consistent with that state of mind. Equally so, when you get back into that state of mind, you remember all those things that you once knew. That's the process. Just as God cannot be at war with Satan because they're different states of mind. They can't coexist. Equally so, just as when you're in that good state of mind, you remember the good things and you feel capable of doing all those things, but when you're in the bad state, you forget all that. You forget that you could do that, or that you had that inside, or that people like you in that way. War is one of those negative things. It's irrational and unintelligible. Therefore, in principle, the Abrahamic God, who is supposed to be perpetually in that good state of mind, cannot exist because war is one of those ways of thinking or functioning of the negative state of mind. So the Abrahamic God can't exist. Equally so, when you're in that high state of mind and you realize, it's all self unfolding itself and we're capable and all of our thoughts are messages. We just got to take it analogically and listen. There's no need for war ever. When you're in a shitty mood, you might want to kick the dog or whatever. Damn dog looked at me weird and give it a kick. I would never do that. I love animals. But when you're angry, you might, I want to kick the dog. But when you're happy, the dog's an angel. It's the best dog. Dogs are gifts from heaven. It's that principle. It's that principle we make use of. It's that principle we're seeing Jesus demonstrate in the text. He forgets everything he saw. He goes back to those things he concluded were impossible. He rejects his own insight and understanding. That's the human problem. That's also why the Abrahamic God can't exist. That's also why evil can't exist as a conflict, force at war, because war requires thinking and planning. You can't have that in that state of mind of pure evil. Punishment, again, puts you in a negative state of mind. How can you remember the insights of math or calculus or how to solve problems or how to carry your drink without spilling? If you're being punished, you're put into a negative state of mind. That's just like Hamas. Israel created Hamas to have a justification to do genocide. So too, punishment puts you in a negative state of mind where you're more likely to miss the mark and make mistakes, giving you more reason to punish people. You ever tried driving in a car with a really negative person? They're really critical. You can see them on the edge of the seat, waiting for you to make a mistake with driving so they can jump on you. Before you've even made a mistake, you feel like you're going to make a mistake. A self-fulfilling prophecy. Ever been around a racist person? They're around a brown person and they're just clip-chimping, waiting for an excuse for them to trip or miss the mark or say something they don't like so they can pounce on them. And then once they're in a negative state of mind, see, you're bad because Trump was right, brown people are bad, build a wall, go back to where you came from. Now they're in a negative state of mind, they're more likely to punch you in the face. See, you're violent, Trump was right, my racist uncle was right, my racist parents were right. Punishment is a self-perpetuating loop of negative states of mind, creating negative reactions. That's justification for punishment as its solution, which creates negative states of mind, which perpetuates the loop. That's violence. That's war. That's, America. That dictator is bad. Let's bomb everyone in the country. Now everyone hates America. That's bad. Let's bomb them. Now they really want to say death to America. Let's bomb them again. Perpetual injustice, violence, and tyranny. That's punishment. That's belief. That's the seventh hypothesis in particular. How you solve problems is to create the conditions for the ideal states of mind. That's the dialectic. You won't be able to develop the understanding to create those ideal states of mind and prepare for those states of mind without reading something that talks about it. That's why we read on this channel. Apollo, you need to be reading. You won't create those insights unless you reflect. That's why we have the blackboard and why we reflect so much. Aphrodite. When you're in your negative states of mind, oh, by the way, doing the two things together, you realize that reading is actually the dialectic. That's Hermes. Those are the three gods Socrates says he follows, we all follow in our upward anagogic movement. But if you're in the negative state of mind, you might forget what you've been reading, forget your conclusions, revert to your old beliefs. Hey, people have an acid experience and they suddenly know the meaning of life at a concert or whatever. Next week, they're back to their old patterns again. Same thing. So you can't move through Apollo reading, Aphrodite reflection, Hermes dialectic, and your anagogic movement unless you're also addressing the negative states of mind that come up. That's midwifery. The logos in reading, the pathologos in midwifery. And of course, dreams give you both. Your high states you can have in dreams, your low states in dreams, and everything you've learned about how to read you can apply to your dreams because that's how you unpack the meaning of your dreams. So we've spent 180 episodes thereabouts reading this book. We are learning how to read. You can test it every single day, ideally if you've got someone who's in the game as a partner in your life, with them over eggs in the morning or whatever. Over breakfast. But ideally in our society, every single person, every single day, every workplace and school, every household should be doing dream analysis before lunch. You can test your reading, practicing your reading, your dialectic. It will give you high states that you can remember, awakening you to your good self or God, if you want to use a metaphor. Bringing up your bad states of mind, your pathologos, your states of mind that keep your beliefs and your problems entrenched. But every drama, every image, every metaphor, every state of mind, every character, every word in the dream are messages about your high state and about your low states. That's the game. Therefore, as we've been reading, dream analysis is the pinnacle, the most important thing you can do. And here's the twist. Even though it's the pinnacle, the greatest activity, the most important activity, everyone gets dreams. You don't have to be a certain age. You don't have to be a certain level of wealth. You don't have to be a certain skin color or gender. You don't have to buy a subscription from any capitalist. You don't have to be a franchisee owner as part of some multinational conglomerate. Everyone dreams. Everyone can participate, therefore, in the most meaningful activity and recognize that it's the most meaningful activity because it does those two things. It gives you the information and guidance as a master dialectician about your negative states of mind, pathologos, you're here to purify, and your higher states of mind here, you're here to perfect. That's the entirety of the human game, from belief to understanding, through dream analysis. Therefore, making sense of why Socrates said it's those philosophers through history that recognized the significance of dream analysis, incorporated it into their understanding of philosophy or dialectic, that are the best. Who fits that list? Homer. Achilles went from the worst pathologos to the highest logos through dream analysis and midwifery. Socrates. Several of his texts, he says the only way of removing your problems and being able to follow the logos through the dialectic is through dream work. Pierre Grimes. Here's the thing. We don't have a textbook outlining the specifics of dream analysis. Therefore, that's your job. As you practice this, your job is to write the book. We are seeing at the end of this book, someone go through a pathologos counterattack to all of their logos. That's the humanness. We have to recognize that as our job to become master dialecticians, which is our purpose to become like the self. Participating in goodness, justice. Meaning, it's not enough to address logos. We have to, therefore, in the book, B-U-D-D-D-H. Socrates says, I think that somebody should write a new book called A Dialogue Between Socrates and Buddha, exploring the map of the spiritual journey the same way we have been doing, but with reference to the ox-herding pictures. What we're seeing at the end of the book is the human response that we have to be aware of as ourselves. We have our own counterattacks, our relationships, but also in principle as a dialectician, we are seeing Jesus counterattack, rejecting everything, a kind of interpretation, maybe the fourth level of interpretation, offering his own personal beliefs. Even though Jesus sees, because of our dialectic, that an Abrahamic God or a warring God can't exist, Satan can't exist, and Armageddon can't exist, and the mega dialectic that shows you don't need it, so it's not only impossible, it's unnecessary, because as we've just been saying, punishment puts you into that negative state of mind, which limits your functioning, limits what you remember. We want to create the conditions in midwifery for our high states of mind, because everything we're learning, we're remembering. How can you know something you don't already know? It's in us, it's of us, it's all self. Our job, therefore, is to create the ideal conditions for peak states of mind, for introspection, with understanding, which means removing any punishment, blame, or shame, or any of that shit, and encouraging and having fun and self-reflection. That's the ideal functioning of the dialectician or the dream analysis dialectician. That's our purpose as society, therefore, to meet all human needs sustainably, renewably, efficiently, without any need for work, which we don't have to do anymore, by simply addressing the injustice of conservatism, capitalism, and religion that's used to hoard wealth and oppress people, and instead create a society based on meeting all universal human needs so that we are free to put ourselves in an ideal state of mind, which allows us to remember the true nature of self, the true nature of true intelligence, and our purpose as an reincarnated and evolving species. That's what our purpose is, in principle. However, we are seeing what happens when someone's negative states of mind gets triggered. All that good work Jesus has done, he's thrown under the bus. It's about states of mind. And underlying states of mind, says Socrates, in the soul of man, says Socrates, the healing power of the logos that overcomes the pathologos, there is that power of the logos, the dialectic, and that pathologos states of mind underlying that is a sick idea of the self, sick image of the self. As we're seeing, all of our good work thrown away by Jesus, not by us. Still benefited Socrates, still benefited us, still benefited all of our people following along. But that sequel that the author wants you to write, Socrates and Buddha, A Dialogue in Heaven, might be the trequel, the triquel, because it looks like, as a dialectician, we have learned enough about the dialectic, its structure, its process. We have learned enough about the nature of the pathologos that causes our problems. Your job is to take everything you have learned from this text and write the sequel. Socrates and Jesus, a midwife talk in heaven. That's the humanist. It can't just be the logos, you have to address the pathologos too. It's not a matter of telling the truth, otherwise we'd all be Socratic. We have to recognize the stages we go through in rejecting truth, not because we are evil, but because our purpose as human beings is to address the sick image of self that is the cause and purpose for our reincarnation. To heal. We are here to heal. Socrates' last words in the Phaedo: sacrifice a cock to the god of healing. Because he said, I've finished my work here. I've healed my false image of the self through mastery of the dialectic, the power of philosophy. Now, we have recognized all through the work, just as the key moments of the Republic and other Socratic dialogues is when Socrates says dreams are most significant. All through this book, we have seen dreams play a key role. I'm just going to all the times the word dreams are mentioned. Dreams are mentioned all the way through this text. Look at them. All the way through. So your challenge would be Socrates and Jesus, a midwife talk in heaven, or Socrates and Jesus, a dream analysis talk in heaven. The dream that you create for Jesus to reflect on is likely going to reflect what's most important in his everyday world that he missed or was blocked from. Therefore, the dreams will be messages about what he is missing in this book. So go through this book, find certain things that he missed. Some things he was able to follow, some things went over his head. Include them in metaphors or analogies in the dream. But also, remember, the dreams are for your reading or your logos and your pathologos. Include in the dream messages about Jesus's blocked state that we saw at the end of the book that threw away everything. Everything you've been discovering about your own dreams and this reading, use it, and about analogy and metaphor. Have states of mind in the drama of Jesus's dream. High states and low states. Remember the graph that we looked at earlier today? We have high states representing the logos in our dreams. We have low states representing the pathologos in our dreams. We talked about the meaning of life. We start progressing as a kid, but then we get stuck in our fate, but then we want to become free of our problems. But also, the extent to which we have power over people is also the extent to the effect we have injustice over people, or justice as a philosopher. So beliefs are still bad, even though Aunt Betty only has power over her cat, but she might have kids, have power over them. There's injustice. Might vote for Trump. There's an injustice. Who gives a shit if Aunt Betty only hurts a few people? Bad is bad. Beliefs are bad. Injustice is bad. Helping people's for everyone. Justice ain't justice if it comes at the expense of innocent people. So make a similar map in your dream. Have Jesus have some sort of goal that he either has success or failure in. Have high states of mind and low states of mind through time in the drama. Have a turning point where he could have gone positive, accepted the conclusions from Socrates. Now, not literally Socrates, use analogy. Socrates could be an elephant, and the setting could be not in heaven, but on a spaceship, up to you. But all of it has to have a personal significance to Jesus. Just as all your characters and images and settings have a personal analogous meaning to you. The dialectician's job, in the book that you write, Socrates will say, hey, elephant, what does that mean to you? What's your history with elephants? What do you feel when you think of elephants? What images come up when you think of elephants? The dialectician's job is to turn those analogies into understanding. Just as theology and mythology is the other way. You take the understanding that we've been developing and you present it as a metaphor. Not literal. So the characters, the states of mind, the setting, the drama, the turning point, keep in mind the triad. There will be some image of self the dream is trying to communicate to Jesus. There'll be states of mind that we've been talking about today that allow for certain functioning, to remember certain things, to be able to do certain things, to be blocked from certain things. So that turning point could be a state of mind that blocked his functioning, leading to his negative states of his a failure in the dream, or positive. Because the job is to facilitate that dream analysis and midwifery talk that can turn Jesus around. He did so well at the beginning, but then he got into his pathologo state of mind and he rejected everything that he saw as true. That's the humanness, that's the art of the dialectic. You have to, therefore, if Jesus is open to reflecting on a dream, say maybe tomorrow, oh, that was a great chat we had yesterday, wasn't it, Socrates? Yes, Jesus, it was. How were your dreams? Remember the three questions you can ask someone? Where are you at in terms of your logos, vision, or ousia, and understanding, or logos? Where are you stuck? How well have you gained an understanding or vision of your pathologos? And how are your dreams, which is your guide for both? So then the very first thing that Socrates could ask Jesus in your sequel to this book is, hey, what dreams did you have between this conversation and our last, Jesus? What do you know, Socrates? Our conversation made me really curious about my dreams. I even went ahead and recorded it on my cell phone. And there was an app or a website that allowed me to translate the audio into text. And because I recognize how important words are, that's the whole game, that's our clues, I even listened to the audio to make sure the transcription was right, because you know how transcription sites can be. So I had to fix a few words, but now I've got 2 copies, one for you and one for me. And I heard this principle, even though a dream analysis dialectician is worth $600 million, which is more than what LeBron James is worth to do basketball dunks. I hear the going rate is currently a cup of coffee, which is a huge discount. I couldn't afford not to. So here I have 2 copies of my dream, two copies of my dream, and a cup of coffee for each of us. Let's begin our reflection. That's what the author is asking you to do at the end of this book, because you've seen why it's so important. Jesus, the figure that's influenced the belief of so many people, literally bringing torture, destruction, crusades, dark ages, plagues, and Armageddon of our species, has a potential to see that the three underlying pillars, Abrahamic God, Satan, and Armageddon, or solution of problem through punishment, he has a potential not just see it's false, which he's already done, but be able to keep it, carry it, integrate it, recognize it, and function through it for now and for forever. And in doing so, you are benefited, because whether you like it or not, this is the world we're in. We have been influenced by this way of thinking. It might be when you're in your lowest states, you forget what you know about understanding and dialectic, and you might, I wish we could just beat the shit out of Trump for killing all those people constantly. All those fascists, Zionists who are doing disgusting things and celebrating the torture of those children and the genocide. Oh, I wish they could be put in jail forever. There will be some influence this society has had on you. So this purification from this ignorance will benefit not only those who are most fundamentalist and happen to come across your book, but yourself most importantly, most primarily. And hopefully this book has given you enough to do that. And you're not supposed to get it right. You're just supposed to have a go. Have fun with it. And we even have a place on the Discord where you can share your artistic creations. We had a friend who came in here today and she shared some lovely artwork. This could be one. We've spent the last week nailing down those dialectics on Abrahamic God, Satan, and punishment, or Armageddon. We've done that mega dialectic, which you can put on your fridge. The actual mind map of that not only, once again, shows that evil can't exist, Satan can't exist, Abrahamic or warring God can't exist, but also their Armageddon can't exist, but also are not necessary, because the true understanding of human how to solve problems and reach excellence, the dialectic, which apparently once you complete, you can be freed completely from your pathologos and only good remains, the state of the good self and the functioning of goodness, or the dialectic. Try it out. Try it out. Because let's go back to the end of the book. This kind of activity, as someone who has become curious about philosophy, maybe coming across this Twitch channel or YouTube channel, become curious about this work, maybe popped in and out, then maybe become interested enough or curious enough or develop the courage enough to stick with it and read along with us, is like the story of Achilles, someone who was in a culture of ignorance, who think that their family is the chosen family, as we all human beings do. Whatever I learned from my mummy and daddy is right. The crazy neighbors next door are drunks, they're wrong. Poor kids believing their parents, you know how they're going to end up. But not me, not my religion, not my culture, not my beliefs, not my opinions, not my mummy and daddy. That's just like Achilles. He went through an activity of reflection on the nature of problems and his own problems and dreams to overcome that loyalty to family, clan, ignorance called the pathologos, and go from the worst person to the best. In a similar way, people reading this can undergo an activity not on the battlefield like Achilles, where he was able to enter a staggeringly mindful state and become a model of the greatest hero, but in writing a sequel of this book, Socrates and Jesus dream talk in heaven, you can become a model for how to go from ignorance to excellence and become a model for everyone. And in that process, because it's a intelligible, how do we start the episode today? If it's an meaningful goal that's intelligible, rational, reflecting the self-logos, then it's the exact sort of thing you have to set for yourself as a goal in order to surface your pathologos beliefs and create the conditions for your peak states of mind and self. Meaning, as you try and write this book, your dreams will give guidance on how to do it well and guidance on what's been getting in your way, allowing you to free yourself from all of your problems. And as we've demonstrated in that mega dialectic, things are freed once we overcome. When we vanquish or overcome our problems, they are thoroughly defeated and annihilated, and only good remains in this life and in the future reincarnations, healing yourself and doing your intended functioning as a human being. So you can therefore, using Socrates' words, develop it into an art shared in your sequel to this book, demonstrating the way of the philosopher as a midwife to Jesus in dream work, to free himself from his folly and guide his way through the study of dreams. That's the last page of the book. That's your quest. This is the call to adventure. This is Gandalf saying to you, don't you want to be a wizard, Harry?
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
That's weird.
You're a wizard, Harry.
There you go. Aren't you a wizard, Harry? Says Gandalf to Frodo.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A wizard, Harry. This is that conversation to you. Develop what you've been reading and been practicing yourself, because you will have blocks as you try and do this. Your first block will be, I'm not going to do it. There you go. Your dreams will help you. Remember, dreams are the highest activity we can do, the most beneficial. And as you go through your own midwifery and dream work, you can use that as material to guide your writing. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Win-win-win, in fact. So Socrates is making it clear for you. Develop it into an art, into the way of the philosopher as a midwife to free man from his folly and guide his way through dreams, through the study of dreams. Your way and Jesus' way. Jesus said, well, hang on a second, that might be good for one person, but not for everyone. A drop of rain doesn't make a storm. True enough, but this ideal shaped the soul and spirit of the Hellenes into a mindful people that put all others to shame. This kind of activity that you are being encouraged to do is a kind of work that can influence not only you, which is the most important thing, but also others. Can put you into a mindful state as well as others, and compared to all other activities or works of literature, would put all others to shame. Being the literal archetype of the hero's journey that others take pieces of.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
That's right. And Jesus said, well, okay, what you're asking is just one path of many. We're all on different paths. Hey, what you think is meaningful is not the same as me. We'll all end up in the same place. We're all seeking the good in heaven, but we're all at different paths, right? So yeah, I don't have to do this. Socrates' response, bullshit. His response is,
Look at this broad.
look at this broad.
I ate a steak. I'm stupid. I'm drunk all the time, you know. I'm just like you.
I say, I'm not eating a steak and drunk all the time and just like you.
Don't be disgusting.
Don't be disgusting. Bullshit. The destiny of man, our purpose in going from our problems to our excellence, the meaning of life, the reason we're here, lies in the single path. The meaning one, single meaning one, path of the Hellenes. We all need the path we have walked To know thyself is to be Hellenic. So this, oh, well, we're all on different paths. You might want to write a sequel to this book, but I want to do something else. Go fishing. And I can find Zen in fishing. Bullshit. You can't. You have spoken. Jesus, who has had an enlightenment experience, is literally speaking to Socrates. He's known for fishing. All the fishing in the world won't stop him rejecting the understanding and insight he came to in the dialectic. The only thing that will stop him from being ignorant, blind, savage, zombie-like NPC loyal to his beliefs is dream work and midwifery. It's not one path of many, just as philosophy isn't one opinion among many. That's the opposite of philosophy. That's philodoxia, love of opinions. Philosophy is a single activity, the logos, the dialectic. The thing that we can go through to perfect our soul is a single activity. It's not one path among many. Whether you were born into a Buddhist or Taoist or Hebrew or Mormon with your magic underpants. Goon with the soaking. It's all the same. The destiny or purpose or the meaning of life and highest goal for us all lies in the single path of the Hellenes. We all need that path to be walked, and to know thyself is Hellenic. So Jesus' response is, well, what about my beloved beliefs in the Abrahamic God? You guys don't think that that's really a real God? Yes, we don't, because we're not an idiot. No, he didn't say that. He says, we don't. Nor do your people realize that in the soul of man, there is a healing power of the Logos that overcomes the pathologos, the sick image of self. Jesus' response, therefore, through, as we said, through dream work, to overcome the problem at the end of the book. Jesus, you have uncovered a difference that we will need to reflect upon further in the sequel. And I shall wonder if our future talks, I wonder who's going to write that. It's you. That's for you to do. I wonder if our future talks will benefit both those here and elsewhere. Benefit Socrates and Jesus in the story, but also benefit you writing it and people reading it. I'm sure I will find out when we meet again and discuss further. So he's giving you a bit of a help. The nature of the divine. So your dream hopefully should have messages about that. The way of benevolent providence, demonstrated in the dream talk itself, and the nature of self. Now, through this book, we've been talking mainly about the God's intelligence. Because every time Socrates has been saying, hey, doesn't even that have a cause? As above, so below. Shouldn't there be a cause to your peak experience? Notice when Socrates started talking about the cause beyond his peak experience, that's when Jesus got triggered. That's when his counterattack came. That's when he got into this negative state of mind. Meaning, if you can do this sequel that the book is asking you to do, which involves the single path that we're all here to walk, which is guiding our way through the study of dreams, which is already established as the highest functioning of the standard for what makes the philosopher the best and our highest activity. As you go through that, one test could be at the end of the dream, is Jesus now free enough from his problem, from the insight of his dream to explore the nature of the self? Could he only be open to that because he has explored the way of benevolent providence by not just doing the dream talk, but reflecting ousia on the providence that was being bestowed to him through his dreams, facilitated by the highest human activity, the dialectician of a dream talk? And of course, prior to that, the dream should have states of mind reflecting this very block that we've just been given. Should be enough for you to shred a story about Jesus' block state of mind. Hey, you can even include some of your own stuff in there. If you, or maybe not, up to you. I guess there's two ways you could go. Because you don't want to interpret, you want to reflect Jesus' problem, but you can use your own understanding of what it takes to go through that process. Definitely. How about that? So the negative states of mind, or the low states of mind on that graph that we showed, but also the high states of mind, or dream analysis by giving you those high states of mind gives you an opportunity to discuss the nature of the divine. So there's your logos states, or second hypothesis states. Where's that graph? Here we go. And we'll just do another one. So the drama of the dream can have high states of mind with symbols, states of mind, metaphors, drama, characters, and words that reflect information about the nature of the divine, or the second hypothesis, or mind or being. That's the penultimate spiritual experience. But the dream could have a different scene, maybe, where he gets into a negative state of mind, reflecting the negative state of mind and everything you've learned about all of the weird language he used. The truth is silent before the arrogance of thinkers. All that shit. That's messages. That reflects his parents. He had to get it from somewhere. That's the idiosyncratic logos, or words, tied to his state of mind and functioning. So there's his purification of the fourth hypothesis, beliefs, his problems. Now, he could be a success or a failure, up to you how you're going to write the book. But in doing so, he can reflect on the process of a whole. Hey, what do you make of dreams? Says your Socrates character to Jesus. Hey, was this helpful, do you think? What does that say about our dream master? What does it say about the logos and the dialectic we were following? The nature of the third hypothesis through this reflection on the dreams itself, the divine providence of dreams, and as a result of that, can there be another puzzle hidden because dreams are this rich, another puzzle hidden in this book, which is about the future, because dreams know about your past to tell you about your problem, know about your present to help you with your development of reading and to show the urgency of the problem you're facing, but also your future. Dreams have that, as we've read in the text, there is a professorial. Oh, there's a person in chat. I'm failing seeing any Socrates characteristic in this stuff. Even the Jesus bit sounds a bit flat. Oh, well, we're 180 episodes in, so you're 180 episodes more ignorant than we are. So you can go through the videos on YouTube, or you can read the book, or you can keep an open mind if you want, and you can ask questions relevant to what we're saying that might help you learn. So yeah, it's the best thing we can do. And we're at the end of the book, where we're being asked to write a sequel to this book, because Socrates has demonstrated the meaning of life, how we overcome problems, how we can reach our excellence, and the courage and character an individual requires to be open to that, because most people are more content being smug in their ignorance than open and curious to learning. So it does require courage and character, but it's the best game in the world. It's the noblest game in the world. It's the only real game in town, and it's also the hero's journey. The name Socrates is I don't know what that words mean. Socrates is a Greek philosopher who completed his work here on Earth through mastery of the dialectic, which is the skill we're here to master as human beings, and the meaning of life. But again, what I just said is a conclusion after 180 episodes of reading this book. It's up to you to find something in what I'm saying that rings your bell, that stimulates a question, and hold that question. To hold a question is to be on a quest. And I press the quest button. hold that question and use the material in the book itself to answer that question. In doing so, you'll face blocks. The material in the book will give you the information on how to overcome those blocks. In pursuit of your question, it can lead you to knowing the nature of intelligence and the self. I find it tasteless when you take a guy death since hundreds of years and misuse him to support a wicked Christian ideology. Okay, that's completely irrelevant to what we're doing. If you had any familiarity, or if you asked questions rather than making declarative statements, you might discover the exact opposite is happening. It's not supporting a Christian ideology at all. It's shedding light on the nature of Christianity, the different levels of interpretation that's happened, how it falls short, how it can represent a common theme that's characteristic of all Abrahamic traditions, has a false idea of God that can't exist, has a false idea of evil that can't exist, and its solution to human problems, Armageddon, is not only impossible, but is unnecessary, because we solve human problems through reason and reflection, called the dialectic. So, you know, again, I'm encouraging you to be open and curious rather than, or, hey, you could, if you wanted to, I don't think you will, but you might be open to it. What was the state of mind you came in with? Because you knew nothing about what was happening. You presumed you did, and you were wrong. You were opposite. And you decided to throw insults in a smug way. What's that state of mind? Does it help you? Is it good? Is it just, considering you were wrong? Does it help you learn? Does it help you be curious? Does it have a past in your life? I was curious. No, you weren't. You weren't. Look at your words. Look at the words you wrote. Did you say tasteless? Did you say that someone was being misused to support a Christian ideology? Yeah, see? Okay, the chatter is saying you're misusing Socrates to support your slave religion. I'm not. I literally defined the exact opposite. The Abrahamic God is impossible, I said. How the fuck can I be supporting a slave religion if I'm saying it's logically impossible, and believing in it is harmful and causes Armageddon? You are blocked, my friend. What we are learning to do is become open and curious about the blocks we have, so we can free ourselves from our blind spots and blocks, so we can stop functioning unjustly or like a dick, and free ourselves to actually learning about what we're here to learn. That requires courage. It requires character. It requires an open-mindedness. It requires a willingness to be wrong and overcome what you are wrong about. It's not a blame game. It's not a punishment game. That's the game of humanity that we're in. That's the invitation on the table. And if you're going to ignore what I'm saying and the questions I'm asking, then that's just evidence of your ignorance. Do you find it curious you were wrong? Do you find it curious that when I pointed out you were wrong, instead of being open, oh, interesting, I'm wrong, I wonder why I did come in hot like that? Your response was to ignore that and double down. Do you find it interesting that despite the fact that I'm 180 episodes in and you know nothing about what's going on, you made a declarative statement about something that was false? Do you find it interesting that you're more addicted to the state of mind you're in being a dick than learning? So everything that I've said, you've taken the opposite meaning. So you're an idiot, but that's okay. You can be an idiot, so long as you are open and curious enough to change and be better.
Wrong. You're so wrong. But that's okay. We're all allowed to be wrong sometimes.
We're all allowed to be wrong sometimes. Okay, so that's weirdo chatter. Maybe he can stick around. Maybe he can become curious. Maybe he can one day learn how to answer questions and not just vomit his ignorant beliefs on other people who didn't ask for them. Maybe, or maybe not. So, back to the people who are interested in learning and not interested in being a dick, or ignoring what people are saying, asserting or projecting, I think you're doing this. Well, I'm not, but I don't care that you're not doing it. I think you're doing it. That's called projection. That's called interpretation. That's the nature of our problems. That's the functioning of our problems that keep our problems alive. But notice, we had a fantastic example of what we've been reading. In the text, Jesus came to an understanding through the Logos. Questions and answers. When his highest vision was challenged, he went into, as chatter was, dick mode. Pathologos mode. A state of mind that his family taught him, that he learnt from his family, that can be used to ignore things that are said that challenge the beliefs of the family clan, as chatter ignored me, to mock. Ha 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 ha, you're stupid. Threaten, or if you challenge my personal beliefs, I'm gonna get you. Exile, you're not a member of this team anymore. You're not MAGA, you're not Christian, you're not Andersons, and kill. So a certain state of mind that allows for one of those kinds of reactions to truth and understanding that throws away the Logos that he's already seen, not relating to reality at all, and functioning unjustly. So we had a little microcosm of that very nature of all human problems. Chatter and chat just did it. Came in, rejected understanding, rejected reason, rejected evidence, projected his own personal beliefs. When somebody shared a Logos with him, instead of listening, instead of following questions and answers, that's the dialectic, he instead ignored that, decided he was in charge, and the way that he functioned as a ruler wasn't in a good way as a dialectician, was as a tyrant, to ignore questions, ignore reason, to mock, to insist on the false beliefs he walked in with. That's the nature of all human problems. The difference between him and someone else who's a tyrant or a fascist or a dictator is how much power he has over others. That's the only difference. So, a little microcosm in the chat of the nature of all human problems. So what we are seeing is the book is offering us explain the relationship. Now he's making demands. It's Trump. It's a fascist bullshit. Yeah, and I think all of that went over his head because he's still insisting on something that he has been demonstrated as not true. But instead of becoming open and curious, there is an addiction to being fascist or cruel or smug and cruel. Smug and cruel is whether it's a Joe Rogan podcast or whether it's a Donald Trump or whether it's any of these fascists, being smug and cruel is more interesting to him than actually listening to anything that was actually said. So completely blind to reality. I'm not relating to what is there. I'm rejecting what is there and I'm projecting what isn't there. And I'm going to respond to what I project. Now, what we are learning is the images of our projection is our fifth hypothesis, shapes and colors. He heard the word Jesus, he was triggered. So all of this stuff with you think Jesus is there. No. As I said, I'm doing the exact opposite. I suspect if you listened, you'd be on my side. Doesn't matter. People don't relate to truth when they're in their problem state of mind. That's the fifth hypothesis, images. The fourth hypothesis, if he did one day have some sort of courage or character to reflect on his images, he might find that he is carrying false beliefs that can be triggered in certain moments. That's the fourth hypothesis. Our purpose, therefore, is through dream analysis and midwifery, uncover those false beliefs and remove them. The sorts of things that trigger our beliefs are, third hypothesis, understanding. So there's our logos and ousia, our reasoned reflection. So asking him a simple question was too much for his brain to handle. I'm not answering a question. I'm going to just dump my stupid images onto you. Then I'm going to respond to them the same way my daddy responded to me and my mummy responded to me and I've responded to everyone my whole life, keeping me trapped in my ignorance. Understanding is the logos. The pathologos of our beliefs oppose the logos. Another thing that can threaten someone and put them into the negative state of mind is mind. Is there something non-physical we're here to understand and know as pure intelligence? Transpersonal. Nothing about your ignorance, nothing about your family beliefs, nothing about your images. It's beyond the personal. And of course, the first hypothesis, the self. What if someone was to say that the highest idea of reality, the first cause, the highest idea of God was the self? Now, the irony being, seeing as this ignorant person's first idea was Jesus is bad, the irony being, if he actually was freed from his ignorant state of mind, his pathologos problem state, and he was open and curious enough to listen, he'd probably find out that we're in agreement about the things that he is talking about. But as I demonstrated, I literally defined the exact opposite, but it fell on deaf ears. That's the nature of the pathologos. You could be talking to Socrates himself. Wouldn't make a difference. You're using Socrates to support religion. Am I? I thought I was doing the literal opposite. Let me explain that. Fell on deaf ears. He is more attached to, this is going to be demonstrated in the dream, the negative state of mind that he experiences in the dream, should he be open to dream analysis, or in the sequel that we're looking at making, is our addiction. He is more addicted to this negative state of mind than he is interested in actually listening to what's really going on in the world around him, causing his negative activity to act inappropriately to what's happening. Imagine telling a philosopher you're interested in religion. You couldn't be more stupid. Literally. Belief, religion is the veneration of your pathologos belief that allows for that negative state of mind you're addicted to. Our purpose is to remove that and develop understanding, allowing for our high states of mind. You couldn't be more wrong. Doesn't matter. Truth doesn't matter to someone in a problem state. The way of being that they are imitating, their image of excellence, the same ignorance their mummy and daddy dumped on them, they are repeating to the expense of their own learning and benefit. That's the nature of all human problems. Oh, Elon Musk is doing Nazi shit. What do you know? His dad was a Nazi. Donald Trump is doing KKK shit. What do you know? His dad was a KKK member. It's just that simple. All it takes is the courage, character, and a little bit of intelligence to be open and curious to actually addressing those problems and solving them. Now, for that person, maybe your book is something they would have to read. Someone like him, blocked, going through a process of dream analysis with the character in your book, Socrates, to demonstrate how to overcome that. So it's a little bit of a tangent, but a relevant tangent because it demonstrated the very thing we're talking about. So, in your sequel, you're being asked to write about this book. Can you create a dream that Socrates, hey, Jesus, good talk yesterday. Oh yeah, it was. Did you have a dream between now and then? Oh yeah, I did. Let's have a look. And by the way, you can include questions that you are going to answer in the book or little foreshadow. You can do we can look over this book as a archetype and guide for how to write a masterpiece as well, but just have a go. Just do your best. So, the fourth hypothesis, negative states you can explore to gain. So, to use our friend in chat as an example, the kinds of language he used let's use the text as an example. Let's lay off this guy for a bit. The kind of language he used in this book to block him, you can use in the book, kind of in your book, the kind of images, what you could have imagined Jesus' state of mind, his mannerisms, his facial expressions, his body language will be in there. But of course, dreams are the best and most important activity because it also demonstrates not just our fourth hypothesis, problems, but our second hypothesis, high states. The thing about dreams is not only do you get to remember and re-experience those states of mind, you are being guided by a third hypothesis, dialectician. Meaning you can not only re-experience those highs and low states of mind, which have their associated blocks or problems or blind spots, you are adding understanding to it. That's the complete spiritual thing. The complete spiritual method or yoga. States of mind or ousia, experiences, plus logos. Can't have one without the other. Can't have experience without understanding, and you can't have understanding without experience either. Definition and demonstration. The two first categories of the dialectic. So, that dialectician, after reviewing those two possible states of mind in your book, can ask a question: what do you make about dreams themselves? Or maybe the functioning of the dialectician. You can throw in there as well, but mainly dreams. To learn about the nature of the third hypothesis or providence. Oh, and so we've got fourth hypothesis, problem state, but also in that problem state, you can have your fifth hypothesis, images. So helpful that guy came in to demonstrate all of these. His false images, his the words and the states of mind and the mannerisms that populate this negative state of mind, positive and negative states of mind on the graph. In the drama leading to either success or failure. Now, after going through that process in your book, you might actually have something. Now, just as we have noticed in our reading, there were certain moments of the text that stood out as not fitting. Now, it wasn't part of the unfolding of the reasoning, so we went back to it later. Oh, this is the one time Socrates said no and not yes when he began his talk. This is the one time Jesus uses a strange kind of way of talking. This is the one time Socrates answered and not asked a question when he was answering Jesus' pathologos that might have reflected his own. So you can include yourself something that stands out as curious, that after this reflection on your high state, your low state, midwifery on the low state. So you've done midwifery on the low state. You've done dialectic or philosophy on the high state, relating it to the conversation that he had in this text today. But you can find this question and pull it out. And it might be having freed himself, at least temporarily for the moment, from his problems, explored that high state, explored the nature of providence and logos from the dreams and the dialectician. What's our highest goal? To apply the third, apply rationality to the second, and realize it must have a cause that functions providentially. That's the first hypothesis, or the self. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Socrates in the book, Jesus says, well, I would love to have this in a future talk, maybe written by you, that will benefit those here and elsewhere. And by the way, we have mentioned this is the kind of work you can give birth to. So we talk about giving birth to things in midwifery, not actual children, but giving birth to works that can last within, that can rival Homer and Hesiod, rival even the story of Achilles, that can be objects of reflection for humanity for 1,000 years or more. That's the works you can give birth to. That's the potential of the book that you write. So helping those here and elsewhere. And I hope that when we meet again in the sequel that you're writing to discuss further the nature of the divine in the high state, using the images, words, symbolism from the dream of the high state part of the dream or scene. The problem, he hasn't written this here, but the problem, the way of benevolent providence by reflecting on the dream itself, and also the nature of self. So maybe that could be the conversation he is now open to have, still using guidance from the dream at the end of the book. So, there's your task. We offered a task for our friend in chat to reflect on his own functioning or the nature of his projections, considering they were the opposite of what's true, and ask a question about the state of mind. Why was it so important for you to be in that state of mind? Why does that seem knowing? An actual philosopher told you you're being a dick, but for you, no, I'm not being a dick. I'm knowing. Being knowing is just like this. Who told you that? Where did you learn that? Does it reflect a person from your past? But also demonstrating that this is everyone. This is the nature of all human problems. It's an addiction to this negative state of mind that has an underlying false idea of the self that causes the negative functioning. There's the triad. Self, mind, functioning. The addiction to the state of mind. Our ideal state of mind, open, curious, or insightful and profound. Dreams have both states of mind that can be unpacked in that kind of way. So just as we looked at the negative state of mind that has a negative functioning that causes the problems that repeat in our lives, so too in the dream analysis, can you look at the high state of mind, see how it functions providentially, put words on it so you can understand it as a second hypothesis, but see that just as the negative states of mind has a pathologos image of the self, so too the high state of mind has as its cause and message the actual one self. I hope to know about the nature of the divine, state of mind, the way of benevolent providence, understanding it, and ultimately realizing that underlying it is the self. I hope to know about the nature of the self. Did I mention this book is a fucking masterpiece? Imagine, what would it be like to do that book? Write that sequel? Would it help you? Would it help others? Would it be a meaningful activity? Will it challenge you in the most meaningful ways? Do you even have a chance to write about this, the kind of challenges you face as you populate the story? Exciting? Worth doing? If you decide to try it out, best of luck. Feel free to join the Discord and share your work or thoughts with us, or write comments in the chat, but also recognize when you are opposed to this, what state of mind were you in? Did it block you from listening? Were you like the dork in chat who insisted in his ignorance? Doesn't matter what I said. I just know what you're doing. I say I'm doing the opposite. No, you're doing what I say you're doing. And that's not real. You're just imagining that. No. When are you like that? Because all human beings have this as the nature of their problems. Why was that state of mind better? Why did it feel more real? What courage do you think you need to become open and curious? And drop that bullshit and just listen. Find something fun to do.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder, dude?
Is it fun and whimsical and filled with childlike wonder to come into a place you have no idea about and just assume you know things you don't and just be a dick to everyone? Is that fun? Or is it a false image of fun because your parents found it fun to abuse you in that way? Is that the nature of human problems? An addiction to a unjust state of mind based on belief? And because belief can't actually learn and improve and help people like the dialectic can, all it can do is harm? Do people take this state of mind of inflicting harm because that's all that belief can do? Do people take this as a surrogate for knowing? And as we've seen, it's so addictive that no matter what is said and done, stays in it. Is that addiction to this cruel, smug, violent state of mind as a surrogate for knowing because that's what belief allows? Can we call that sadism? Is that why humans are inhumane towards each other? He would rather be a dick and cruel and try and destroy something good than actually offer anything good? Is that a fucking stupid way of being? Cruel? Do we call that sadism? Is that the nature of all human problems? Sadism? The addiction to the state of mind of the pathologos? Is that what we're here to overcome? Is that why we call Earth Hades? Because those in positions of rulership have yet to go through midwifery, dream analysis, and the reading that we do to master the dialectic. And therefore, all they have left is their ignorant images and beliefs and imitation, shapes and colors, leaving them as sadists. We want to turn our souls around, our lives around, and heal ourselves in the way that we've been born here to do, both in this, for this life and for beyond. Would it be worth doing this activity Socrates is offering you? If so, could it be the hero's journey? And does that make Socrates, Gandalf, calling you, Luke Skywalker, to adventure? Or Frodo, or whoever?
You're a wizard, Harry.
Is Socrates saying you're a wizard, Harry? And join the Lord of the Rings? Become the king of the pirates? Become Hokage? Be this demon slayer? Save the princess from the Koopa Troopers?
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Is this Gandalf's question to you? Well, if so, best of luck with your answer. No, not luck, providence. I hope your answer is guided by the logos. Thanks for joining me. And, oh, we've still got the haters. What is the chorus going to say to this? Speaking of haters in the chat, what's the chorus going to say? Let's find out next time. Hey, good luck on your potential art that you're going to write, maybe. I'll see you in the next one. Let me play the music.